Let's get to the domino effect here, though, because I mean, anytime we've been covering for a while at Awful Announcing, the open pursuit by both Dan Orlovsky and Greg Olsen, not to mention, I'm sure you and I could come up with 5 others who might be good candidates for this, and they would talk about it, or it would be posited that they could jump up at some point. It was always this seat because Romo's young. We knew the Brady thing was coming. Aikman just went to ESPN. He's not going anywhere anytime soon, and he's not too old himself. And now that's not happening. So how do you feel if you're Dan Orlovsky or Greg Olsen? Is it just over, or are you on the phone with Netflix, or what's the deal here?
I think you are in Awful Announcing's DMs trying to point out every mistake that Tom Brady makes in hopes that he'll get some negative press and we'll have enough of it and get out of the broadcast booth. I'm still of the opinion that this Tom Brady thing is not for long. And even if he hits the over on the 1 year mark that I set, like I can't imagine Tom Brady's doing this for like 5+ years. Like I do not see broadcasting being the next chapter of Tom Brady's life for the long term. So I do think Fox will reopen. And I do think, like, obviously they would just hire Greg Olsen or promote Greg Olsen if he's still at Fox at that point. But it's kind of bizarre. Like, for as polarizing as all of these broadcasters are, I think Collinsworth is polarizing. I think Tony Romo is certainly polarizing. I think Troy Aikman, to a lesser degree, is polarizing. I mean, obviously Tom Brady is at this point, but it's just kind of weird.
Aikman used to have the thing that he wasn't negative enough, and I think he's kind of corrected that. So yeah, he's probably the most widely loved at this point, and he's on the biggest, high profile broadcast. So I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think just like him and Buck have become such an entity together that, like, nobody wants to criticize that team, nor necessarily should they, because I think if you were to ask me what the best team is, like, I think that is the best team in terms of calling
and Buck
the NFL.
Is so critical that it's like you almost need Aikman to smooth it out a little bit, right? Like, Buck is just so loud in, like, the not the volume, but just the tone of how he does it. So yeah, it's good. It's the tandem that works. But back to what you were saying.
Well, I just think it's funny. All these analysts are polarizing to varying degrees. And I think the one who isn't is Greg Olsen, and he doesn't have a top job. It's weird that this one guy is out there who everybody seems to love. Everybody, I don't know anybody who's like, man, I cannot stand Greg Olsen in the broadcast booth. He's called Super Bowls before. He's obviously plenty capable of it. And it's just weird that he's the guy, he's the odd man out in all of this, that obviously he doesn't have the same star power as Aikman or Romo or Brady. But it's just funny that for as much as we are critical of these things, like, the networks clearly see it in a different light.
Yeah, I guess the other one we haven't mentioned is Kirk Herbstreit, right? That is kind of in a similar vein as Brady, I guess you could say, where we're not exactly sure how long Kirk is going to be doing that job. I mean, he's going to be on game day and the big ESPN game each weekend for however long he wants to, but he's never really seemed to love doing that. I don't think people have received him super well. Al Michaels will be done at some point. Does that present a natural evolution? So that job's there. Calling Thursday Night Football for Amazon Prime Video, and as their package expands over time, potentially there might be more opportunities to not just call that Thursday game for 14, 15 weeks a year like they do now. But Olsen staying at Fox seems to make the most sense. We're doing this after Dan Orlovsky just got his one game a year. I believe it's only one still. And it was an awful blowout that did not get to showcase himself, Louis Riddick, and Chris Fowler whatsoever. I think that booth has been pretty good the past few years when I've tuned into it. I didn't watch last night because the game was out of hand before I even sat down on my couch. Is he the number 2 guy for you? Like, is that how you kind of think of the pecking order? Olsen, Orlovsky, or are there other names?
I guess he would be, because he puts himself out there and it's something that, that he clearly wants. And so
good marketing.
I don't think this is a job like, you can do unless it's something you're actively seeking. Nobody's jumping out to me at this moment. Like I really like Ryan Clark, but I don't know if I could imagine him in the booth. I guess the other one would be Jason Kelsey, just because I did think he was that impressive on Monday Night Football when he joined the Aikman and Buck booth. And you don't know how much of that is just being with, like we said, the top broadcast team. But I think, I still think the Monday Night Countdown platform is too small for Jason Kelsey. I think, I don't know. He seems to like it. And he seems to like this, thing where he's going viral every week because he makes some funny comment or says tits on air or something. But I don't know. I just think when you're paying Jason Kelsey what ESPN's paying Jason Kelsey, it seems like too small of a platform for him to just be a fourth voice on another panel with, other ex-players. So I think it would be Greg Olsen and Jason Kelsey and Dan Orlovsky. Those are the three that stand out to me as kind of next in line.
Chase Daniel could be one. He's risen pretty quickly. I mean, maybe not next year, but he is everywhere. He clearly still, just inhales football, and he fits that same. I mean, he is Dan Orlovsky, just like 5 years on a delay, right? I mean, he's the journeyman backup QB who we all know of, but never really heard about it. Oh, wow, he's pretty smart. I could see an executive falling in love with that, and it seems like he could do the job. I have no idea if he'll be good at it.
Yeah, he's somebody, just because he doesn't have the star power, he probably needs to like climb the rungs a little bit and do some MAC college football games, or
sure,
do
talk to the CW or something. Get on some of those. Yeah.
I don't think he necessarily jumps to the front of the line. What about RG3? RG3's out there. He has experience in the booth and has a lot of star power.
I think he will be back by next football season, right? I mean, he'll be somewhere.
Yeah.
The podcast will kind of keep him in the mix. He could do an interview anytime he wants, and somebody will pick up the phone. He's young. He's not going to be forgotten about, and I think he'll be somewhere. Probably college, but I think he could rise. Yeah, to me, Ryan Clark he's like the next Michael Strahan or the next, Nate Burleson to me. He's a guy that's going to keep his foot in the football world, but he's going to do that other stuff too. He's going to be on a morning show or whatever, the 2030s version of these shows is. I don't even know where the media is headed. And then we've talked about people like Peter Schrager, Mina Kimes, folks like that are a little bit, the Tony Kornheiser mold. And that could be a direction to go. But, Philip, our lovely producer, just posted that Chase Daniel is in fact doing games for literally the CW. So our joke landed us exactly where that's exactly
what he should be doing.
Yeah, perfect. Look at that. We could do this job. We could be execs. We just got to put some suits on instead of our hats and hoodies.